experiences were shared experiences. And to the point that I got people to come to my house, and the only rule I had was bring bacon and enough meat for 2 people. And if I was to reflect on what that was about, is what I realized was human connection was everything. And when I was experiencing other people's joy, I was experiencing joy in the stories form. And even back then, we used to bring guns, and we used to, do all sorts of crazy things. I mean, guns and beer, it's no worse combination, I'm sure. But for me, I felt that made people joyous. And for me, I did it for the longest time until I realized there were 80 people at my house drinking beer and shooting guns. So I decided, what was probably a smarter way to do this. And so I started looking for ways to provide a different, unique type of entertainment that people would just keep coming back to. And what I noticed was that experiences that involved guns and adrenaline were things that people tended to love. So I had this idea about paintball on RVs. Oh, sorry, not RVs, on go-karts, right? On dirt bikes. And I thought, what if I did this? So I invited all the 80 people who were willing to drink and shoot, and they weren't willing to drive and shoot. And I went, what's wrong here? And it was about that time I was playing Super Mario and I had an idea. And the idea was that it felt unsafe to be shot. But that was because people were worried about losing control, and that was scary, that getting shot while you're driving, terrifying. But that's because at speed getting shot was terrifying. What if we slowed them down instead? I'm going to skip the whole story about the developer because it's not crucial to the story and it can open you up.
You're down, let's keep going.
So, as I started to think about how I would go about doing this, I would really slow people down. That would bring the entire gamer community to have a real life Super Mario Bros. So we went to work working out the tech, and I have to admit, for me, I've never been more excited in my life because I felt this was the best sport experience that I could create for anyone. And we finally got our first model. And testing it out was tough, right? You can't get on a track, who's going to let you do that? But eventually we got the first pilot and people had to go up. And what I can tell you is there's nothing like the experience you have when a kid that grew up on Super Mario Bros. Gets the opportunity to sit in one of these cars and goes for a drive. Because for the first time, you think about VR and all the money people spend to have simulated experiences. This is them reliving their childhood while also having an adrenaline rush all at the same time. So I understand you've got experiences. Those experiences are usually superficial. This is the rawest, real emotion. This is about as close as I can get to having guns and drinking beer that I witnessed in my backyard. And for me, this is the most important thing to me because that shared experience I now get to share globally at all of these locations. And I'd love for yours to be the next one. How do we do it? So here's the thing, we're running out of time, so that took a little while longer, but what I want to take people through is usually the problem in stories like death. That story's amazing, it just wasn't about you. It was about the shared experience of these people having an amazing experience, about having a life that they enjoy and for him to enjoy it through them. But what I want to do quickly is just show you what a powerful story looks like. And the truth is that all I was doing was following a formula, and I just want you to have this formula. Because as soon as you learn this, especially for the introverts, funnily enough, I work with people that can't tell stories at all. With Make-A-Wish Foundation, I work with them, they're like, you've got to work with this guy. Can't even tell a story about how he met his wife well. And as soon as he learned this formula, it was like, oh, it's just ticking boxes. No worries, I can do that. He told the best story in the group. So the story is broken into 4 elements. The problem, the objection, the outcome, the analysis and implementation. Problem and objection, or the thing they're looking to achieve. The analysis and the implementation, the outcome and the moral. Now, I suggest you spend a maximum 20% of your time here, which is the analysis and the implementation, which is pretty much where you spend all your time. And about 10% delivering the moral, because if you can deliver a moral in a way that's impactful, they will buy whatever you put in front of them. They will invest in whatever you put in front of them, because emotion sells. If they can find a founder that believes, a person that believes in their product, and the moral lands, they'll buy whatever. But you spend about 35% of your time in point 1 and 35% of your time on the outcome. Now, a lot of people are like, well, how can I spend 35% of my time in both of those spaces? And the answer is this, and I'd suggest you write them down. You write down, what I would suggest you write down is the real cost of the problem, the opportunity cost of the problem, and the emotional cost of the problem. Real, opportunity, and emotional cost. I'm going to break it down as quickly as I can for you. There was a while back where I used to sell just to tradespeople. And the benefit of knowing your niche is that when you know your niche, you know their problems better than they know themselves. And so we'd sit down with electricians and we'd say, what are the problems you have in your business? And they'd say, I don't have any problems. Who's this guy in a suit telling me I've got problems? And we'd respond with, really, no problems at all. Like the last 60 electricians we spoke to in the last few months, I've got this problem, this problem, this problem. You sure you don't have any of those? Well, actually, I've got all of those and I've got all these as well. So we became very good at selling to people, but I had this thing where occasionally my sales team would tell me these excuses and tell me why the market had got harder, tougher, it changed. And every now and then, I couldn't get them past it, so I said, look, just pick a lead out of the deck and I'll go sell to it to prove to you the market's fine. Now, of course, they always pick the one that was furthest away. So I picked up this lead and I'm going out to this place called Lilydale in Melbourne, Australia, 45 minutes out of town. And I sit down with this business owner, I said, what problems you got in your business? I got no problems. I say, they've got this problem, this problem, this problem. You sure you don't have any of those? Well, no. And I remember thinking, it was like this big booming voice, oh dear. Got my entire sales team hoping that I don't close this sale. And he's got no problems that I know of. And I'm pretty sure my voice broke as I said this. I'm like, really, you don't have any problems at all? And he took pity on me, you could tell. He said, well, if I had to think of something, my staff don't clean up after themselves. So I jumped on that and I'm like, well, how much is that costing you? Mate, I spend like $20 an hour on my team, a couple $100 a month at the most. I'm selling a training that costs $10,000 a head on customer service. Put your hand up if you think, I've got the deal now. So I went, okay, let's think outside the square. That's real cost, by the way. So I stepped into opportunity cost. And I went, all right, let me ask you, do you ever spend any time going to see customers yourself? And he says, well, I mean, not as many as my team like, but yeah, I do. I said, all right, if you had to pick, how many people do you see? He said, well, I guess I go see 10 a month. Okay. Well, if you go and see 10 a month, do you ever get any, like, referrals? It's like, oh yeah, all the time. I said, well, how many? He said, well, I don't know, like 3 or 4. I said, all right, well, let's call it 3. And if you were to make money off them, like, are they usually your smaller deals or your larger ones? Oh no, usually they're larger. I mean, we just did a big factory the other day, but you know, you can say safely between 1,000 and 50,000. So, all right, well, let's call it 1,000, worst case. So if you go and see 10 people, you make about $3,000 in referrals. Yes, okay. How many referrals do you take? Oh, not as many as me, maybe 1 or 2 a month. Hang on a second, like, even if we called it 2, like, are they seeing less people than you? So, oh no, if I'm seeing 10, they're seeing 40. Like, I'm confused. Like, if you were to see them, I'm not saying you'd have time, but if you were, you'd be getting like 12 referrals. You say they only get a maximum of like 2. That's like 10 referral difference, even on the worst case scenario. That's like $10,000. Do you think it could be because they're not cleaning up after themselves in other customer-related situations? My gosh, I never really thought of that. So I said, how many team members do you have? He said, I've got 5. I said, so you're potentially losing $50,000 in leads and referrals? Are you spending any money on ads? I said, well, I wouldn't need to if we had 50 more leads a month. This is opportunity cost. But I went into emotional cost because the difference is real cost and opportunity cost gets people to make a decision eventually. Emotional cost is what gets people to make a decision today. So I said, does it frustrate you to know that you're spending money on ads and having to, and missing out on like $50,000 worth of referrals all because your staff aren't cleaning up after themselves? So I'm frustrated now. But that's not enough. So I then did something that introverts are masters at, something extroverts can learn. I learned to empathize. I was empathetic and I said, I wonder, what does this guy's life look like? And I said, he's a tradesperson. My bet is Friday night comes by and all of his team have gone off to the pub or gone home to their families. And somebody calls and says, this person hasn't cleaned up after themselves. And there's no one he can call. He has to go and clean up. So I said, does it ever happen where you get a call on a Friday night and you're the one that has to go because you can't get in contact? He says, it happens all the time. As a matter of fact, my daughter and my wife aren't speaking to me right now because I just missed my daughter's dance recital. But what was I going to do? Like, if I didn't go and clean up, they would have written a bad review and that would have been my business. Like, you guys have to spend more money on ads, I'd lose deals. He said, I had to go. Now, he's losing $10,000 in staff member per month. And his wife and daughter aren't speaking to him. Who here thinks I now have a deal? I walked out with $50,000 worth of contracts. On the spot. Not because I could save him money, but because his daughter was pissed. That's the power of a well-structured story. Now, when I went to a networking room, this was our one story. We had stories before, nothing like this. We would tell this story of a person, like I'd speak to somebody and they're like, we don't have any problems in our business. I wouldn't even tell them what I thought their problem was anymore. I would tell them this story of this electrician that thought they didn't have any problems. And then all of a sudden we realized this. And we saved, a couple $100 in cleanup, sending their staff back. We actually got closer to 37 referrals, but it was a lot more than $1,000 each. And he hasn't missed a dance recital or a kids' footy game ever since. What's the moral? The moral is sometimes the problems we don't see are the ones that are costing our business the most. That one story was what allowed me to grow an education facility to 3,500 students in the trade demographic in just 3 years. That's rapid growth, but it all came from one story. One story is really all you need. Now, this template, I'm going to send this to Reuben so he can share it with all of you. This template explains the process of telling a story in detail. And as long as you know that it takes 4 parts and you spend all of your time in section 2 when you should be in 1, 3, and 4, you can change the way you tell stories. You can change it in leadership, you can change it in sales, you can change it in life. And nothing would make me happier than for you to learn how to motivate people to take action that's in their best interest, rather than explaining what they should do, which we all know lands on deaf ears. For today, I'm out of time, so thank you so much. I'm going to invite Reuben.
Thank you, Matthew. That was excellent. Does anybody else have a story they want to tell before you wrap up? That was good, Jordan. Thank you. Well, we have a little transition, and everybody who's signed up for our workshop that will be staying afterwards, our valuation and exit readiness. We actually got Matthew, you're going to stay with us for another 30 minutes for a little VIP Q&A. And we'll let you go ahead and take a break. Everybody, the restrooms are right back here. Grab a coffee. Lunch will be coming later for the group that's staying for the rest of the workshop. And let's get back in and we'll get started in about 7 minutes.